This is the best rookie player of every NFL team so far in 2022. Did your team get a start this offseason? Let's find out. We start with Mr. Relevant for the 49ers. The rookie Brock Purdy entered the game against the Dolphins, which he won after quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo went down. He had his first career start against Tom Brady, and well, he didn't play good. He balled out. Purdy is playing amazing thus far, and depending on how the Niners end their season, he could be the starter in San Francisco even after Jimmy G comes back. Speaking of Jimmy G, we now move to his former team where Jack Jones is. The 4th round pick has played better than some first rounders, and he's already established himself as one of the biggest steals of this draft. Another big steal was Tariq Woolen for the Seahawks. He's at the top of the defensive rookie of the year competition alongside with Sauce Gardner. He was drafted in the 5th round and he's playing as a top 2 cornerback of this class despite not being picked in the first day of the draft. One defender who did get picked on day 1 was Jordan Davis by the Eagles. He made his first career start in week 3 and had 5 consecutive solid games, and despite being on IR since week 9, there's not anyone else in Philadelphia who can overshadow him, or is there? Well, there's one in the other side of Pennsylvania whose name is George Pickens. The Steelers' 2nd round pick has made some insane catches, and he's arguably the most talented receiver of his class. He doesn't have the flashiest stats of them all, but his quarterback situation isn't great, and I'd say he's been underutilized. Unlike Chris Olave, who's been having an amazing season with the Saints and is already their number 1 receiver. He's on pace to easily surpass 1,000 yards this season, and as of now, he's arguably the most productive wide receiver of this class so far. Sticking with wide receivers, we now move on to Alec Pierce for the Colts. He doesn't have amazing stats, nor does he have the production most of the rookie receivers have. However, he has established a great connection with quarterback Matt Ryan, and his role could get increasingly bigger as time goes by. Moving on, why don't we pick Pierce once again? Well, just that this time it's Dameon Pierce. The Texans running back has been playing great this season, and his stats definitely back that up. Were he playing on a team with a winning record, I'm sure he would be talked about quite a lot. Another player in a similar situation is Aiden Hutchinson. The Lions defense has been really bad this season, which of course takes attention away from Hutchinson. However, he's been playing great football, and his 7 sacks are enough to lead Detroit's defensive squad. Staying in the NFC North, Jaquan Brisker comes up next for the Bears. The 2nd round pick has been all over the field over in Chicago. Not only does he have some good stats, but he's also one of the most underrated rookies out there, just as Tyler Linderbaum. The Ravens were in desperate need for a center and grabbed Linderbaum with the 25th pick of the 2022 NFL Draft. He's been playing really good this far, and he seems to be the long-term answer to that position. Staying in the AFC North, we now have our first and only kicker of this list in Cade York. He had a great start to his career, making a 58-yard field goal to give the Browns their first win of the year. He has been solid ever since, and he has the job secured as long as he doesn't make any big mistakes. I feel like it's time for a lineman, isn't it? Let's move on to Zion Johnson for the Chargers. The 1st round pick out of Boston College has been playing solid at the guard position ever since he took the field in week 1. He hasn't been a top tier player, but he gets the job done. One player who not only gets the job done but has a huge impact as well is Jets cornerback Sauce Gardner. The 1st round pick has played amazing this season, and apart from being one of the favorites to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, he's already arguably a top 5 cornerback in the league. Moving on to the Raiders, we have Dylan Parham. He has been a solid contributor to the Raiders O-line, which has had some noticeable improvements from last year. And despite being a 3rd round pick, Parham has earned a starting job in Las Vegas, and he's played really good given the situation. Staying within the division, we now move on to George Karlaftis. The Chiefs pass rusher may not have a lot of sacks, but apart from that, he's a very well-rounded player who's made some great plays when needed. We now have an undrafted free agent in Kader Coho, who has been having a great impact in Miami despite his chances being slim at the beginning of the season. He started the year in the shadows, but after a great play, he's now earned over 99% of the defensive snaps in 6 out of his last 7 games. Speaking of cornerbacks, we now have Andrew Booth Jr. for the Vikings. This is kind of a long shot since his stats aren't that good and he hasn't played that much. However, due to the lack of competition and him increasing his snap share recently, I picked him as the best rookie in Minnesota. I just picked 2 cornerbacks, so why not add a 3rd one in Roger McCreary? The Titans drafted him in the 2nd round of the draft, and he started every single game while playing relatively good. Treylon Burks is also a name to consider here, but he hasn't been as consistent as McCreary. One player who has though is Drake London for the Falcons. He was the first wide receiver taken this year, and he already leads his team in targets, receptions, and touchdowns. Despite Atlanta's low passing ranks, London has managed to be consistent throughout the season. Unlike Christian Watson, who had a slow start to his career but recently had an incredible breakout. He doesn't have a lot of yards, but he does have a nose for the end zone, as he found it already 7 times since week 10. That's an average of almost 2 touchdowns per game since. Another receiver who knows how to get into the end zone is Jahan Dotson. Dotson. The Commanders' first round pick hasn't been very explosive this season and he's on pace to have under 500 receiving yards. However, he has 5 touchdowns and he's usually able to make a play every time he has the ball. Let's now move on to the other side of the game where I have Darren Kendrick. The 6th round pick for the Rams has slowly emerged as one of the most underrated players in the team. He has had his fair share of ups and downs, but considering he was a late round pick, he's been playing great and he's shown some flashes of potential. Staying within the NFC West, we move on to Cameron Thomas for Arizona. The Cardinals rookie class hasn't been great this season, but 3rd round pick Thomas has been playing good even though he has had limited playing time so far. Time for some linemen as we move on to Tyler Smith. He was drafted earlier than most people expected, and after being originally set to play guard, he moved to tackle where he has defended Dak Prescott's blind side. Another lineman on this list is Bengals player Cordell Volson. He's a little bit inconsistent, but he at least helped the Bengals O-line improve compared to last year's. There are not a lot of big rookie names over in Cincy, so that's why Volson gets the spot here. Up next, we have the Broncos with Greg Dulcich. This team didn't have a lot of draft capital after trading for Russell Wilson, but they were able to draft Dulcich with their 3rd round pick. He had a delayed debut due to an injury, but his chemistry with Wilson is undeniable, and he has been a big part of this offense ever since. We now have the 100th cornerback of this list in Kaiir Elam. He's been in and out of the field mainly due to injuries, but apart from James Cook, there's not really a lot of competition over in Buffalo. Back to the offense, Ekeme Kwonu comes up next. The Panthers' 1st round pick has been a key piece of the team's running game, and despite some penalty struggles, he's been settling in quite nicely in the recent weeks. Anyways, we head over to Tampa Bay where I have Kate Otten. He isn't Rob Gronkowski, but he's certainly a reliable tight end for Brady. He doesn't have amazing stats, but he's been solid throughout the year, earning a spot on this list. Up next is Kayvon Thibodeau for the Giants. New York's 1st round pick has 2 sacks as of now, but he's been impactful in a variety of different ways. I feel like he's starting to become underrated, but he has some incredible potential. Just as 1st round pick, Devin Lloyd. One would expect to see the 1st overall pick as the best rookie in a team. Well, not in Jacksonville's case. Although Trevon Walker has had some great plays, Devin Lloyd has been way more consistent and he's been relatively better considering the expectations. Anyways, make sure to click the video on screen if you want to keep watching. So, I guess I'll see you then.